Hi there booktube, it's Eleanor here, and today I'm doing a video which I wasn't even thinking of doing actually, but I have been watching all these videos of people talking about things that they're excited for, books that they're excited to be released this year, and I normally don't make those videos because I don't tend to look too much into what's coming out in the future, but I looked up a video from someone else's video. It inspired me to look up this particular book, and then I just sort of fell down a bit of a rabbit hole, and so I want to tell you about some of the books that I have discovered since falling down that rabbit hole that I'm really looking forward to this year. Some of them I've heard about, other people talk about, and some I hadn't heard of before. So let's dive straight in with the books that I'm interested in that are coming out in February. This isn't going to be a totally conclusive list of all the books that I'm interested in, but these are just the ones that really pique my interest. So in February, the first book that I'm interested in is called The Priory of the Orange Trees by Samantha Shannon. Samantha Shannon wrote The Bone Season, which I really enjoyed, and she writes some really interesting fantasy books. This one I believe is about a queendom that's been ruled by this particular house for thousands of years. The current queen needs to give birth ASAP because assassins are, you know, knocking down the door to try and assassinate her. So I believe we're probably going to have multiple perspectives here. We're probably going to follow her. We're also going to follow a young woman who's like a lady in waiting but also uses sort of magic to keep this queen safe, and then we're following a dragon rider from another country or another place, and I think there's obviously going to be some sort of war and there's political intrigue and that sort of thing, so I'm really looking forward to picking that one up when it comes out in February. The next one I'm interested in February is The Gilded Wolves by Rohana Choshri. This one I wasn't sure whether I would be interested in or not, but when I read the synopsis it really drew me in. It's a sort of adventure quest type story set in 1889 with a person set out on a quest to find this particular artifact with a band of helpers, and I'm sure we're going to get to know all of these different characters really well, and I just think it sounds brilliant, and I really like the cover art for this one. I don't know why, just something about this cover art really draws me in. The next book I stumbled over by chance, and it just sounds right up my street. It's called Onshantae, and it's by Geeta Trelease. I believe it is her debut novel. I'll read you a bit of the synopsis here because it makes just brilliant. Paris in 1789 is a labyrinth of twisted streets filled with beggars, thieves, revolutionaries and magicians. When 17-year-old Camille is left orphaned, she has to provide for her frail sister and her volatile brother. In desperation, she survives by using petty magic she learned from her mother. But when her brother disappears, Camille decided to pursue a richer, more dangerous mark, the glittering court of Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. Using dark magic, Camille transforms herself into the Baroness de la Fontaine and presents herself at the court of Versailles, where she soon finds herself swept up in a dizzying life of riches, finery and suitors. But Camille's resentment of the rich is at odds with the allure of their glamour and excess, and she soon discovers that she's not the only one leading a double life. Just think this sounds like a really perfect mix of magic and a real life story, and I love Paris and set in this particular time period, so I really can't wait for this one. Okay, so let's move on to March, and in March there's quite a few books that I'm interested in. The first one is Bowl Away by Elizabeth McCracken. In this story, we're following one main protagonist, Bertha. She's discovered unconscious in a New England cemetery at the beginning of the 20th century. All she's got with her is a bowling ball, a candle pin, and £15 of gold, which is a bit of a mystery. So in this town of Massachusetts, she's a bit of an enigma to everyone. She doesn't talk about her past. She's got no past that she cares to sort of speak of, and everyone sees her as a bit of an enigma. They can't really work her out. Then she decides to form a relationship and get married to the doctor that has revived her in this cemetery. And then she opens a bowling alley, and this is really, I think, going to be a story about people and small towns and how this one woman with a bit of a mysterious past sort of changes everything for everyone, and I'm sure as we go on the mystery of her past is going to unravel as well. I just think this sounds really intriguing. Now the next book really intrigues me most because of where it's set. It's called The Island of Sea Women by Lisa C, and this is set on the island in Korea of Jeju, and Jeju is actually the island where my sister-in-law lives with her husband and her new baby daughter, and it's a really small island off of Korea, and I just think that sounds amazing, that I would be able to read a book of somewhere where she actually lives, and hopefully one day maybe we'll be able to visit. It's a story of two women who grow up together from different backgrounds, and when they become old enough they become part of this sort of dive collective on the island. This book is set over many decades during a period of Japanese colonialism in the 1930s and 1940s. And then we have World War II, the Korean War and its aftermath. So it's going to span a really long time period and follow the lives of these girls from two different backgrounds and what happens to them because of that. I just think this is going to be a really brilliant story. There's not much really to tell about the next book. It's called Daisy Jones and the Six, and it is by Taylor Jenkins Reid. So I mean, I'm really hoping that this will be a great one, because I really loved The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. She's really set the bar quite high now for me, and this one is about the breakup of a really popular 1970s rock band. I think there's going to be mysteries surrounding that, and I really hope that it's going to keep me as captivated as Evelyn Hugo did. The next book I'm interested in is called If You're Out There by Katie Lewenthizer. I'm going to read you the synopsis for this because again I think it just sums it up best. It says, after Zan's best friend moves to California, she's baffled and crushed when Priya suddenly ghosts. Worse, Priya's social media has turned into a stream of ungrammatical posts chronicling a sunny, vapid new life that doesn't sound like her at all. Everyone tells Zan not to be an idiot. Let Priya move on. But until Zan hears Priya say it, she won't be able to admit that their friendship's finished. It's only when she meets Logan, the compelling new guy in Spanish class, that Zan begins to open up about her sadness, her insecurity and her total sense of betrayal. And he's just as willing as she is to throw himself into the investigation when everyone else thinks their suspicions are crazy. Then a clue hidden in Priya's latest selfie introduces a new, deeply disturbing possibility. Maybe Priya isn't just not answering Zan's emails, maybe she can't. I just think that sounds really, really mysterious and intriguing. In May comes a new book by Jen Bennett, and that is called Serious Moonlight. This is a book about young girls. She's been in total isolation her whole life. She's been homeschooled by strict grandparents. Then something happens and she ends up working at a hotel, I believe. And there's a bit of a mystery involved to do with the writer that's staying there. I think there's going to be a bit of romance in there. It just sounds like a really interesting book, and I really like Jen Bennett's writing. The Farm by Joanne Ramos, which is coming out in May. It's about a businesswoman who runs Golden Oaks, a luxury retreat transforming the fertility industry, where women get the best of everything as long as they play by the rules. Jane is a young immigrant in search of a better future. Stuck living in a cramped dorm with her baby daughter and her shrewd aunt Ate, she sees an unmissable chance to change her life, but at what cost? This says it's going to be a brilliant, darkly funny novel that explores the role of luck and merit, class, ambition and sacrifice. I think that's going to sound, that sounds like it's going to be really interesting. Girls with Sharp Sticks is said to have so many twists and turns it gives you whiplash. I mean, if you read something like that, you're expecting high things. And from the synopsis, it just sounds like a real interesting page turner, sort of a Gillian Flynn type book. Not really giving much away, but everything for this says Girls with Sharp Sticks is described as Westworld meets The Handmaid's Tale and gives us a look into a very freaky, not so far in the future school for girls, Fake Plastic Girls. So that makes me think about a couple of other books that I've read along the similar vein that I've really enjoyed, so I'm definitely going to give this one a go. City of Girls by Elizabeth Gilbert is her next sort of novel after Eat, Pray, Love, and she had another one out, didn't she? Natural, I think it's called The Natural Things, and this, it says it's exploring themes of female sexuality and promiscuity in the 1940s. It's a story told by a 95-year-old woman as she revisits the glamorous, badass adventures of her much younger self. No Place Like Here by June Christina is coming out in June, and I just think it sounds really brilliant. I hadn't actually heard of this author before, but I thought the story sounded really intriguing. It's a modern sort of twist on a Hansel and Gretel story. We're following our main character, and she spends a lot of time at boarding school. She's coming home for the summer. However, her father has just been arrested for tax evasion. Her mother's gone to rehab for exhaustion, and so she's shipped off to work at her cousin's sort of retreat, or to go and work for them somewhere sort of in the wilderness a bit more than what she's used to. And I think it's just sort of following her and the family and the relationships with family, and how she's sort of coping being out of her comfort zone. And I just think it sounds like a really good YA. There's bound to be a little bit of romance in there, and I just think it sounds intriguing, and I like this idea of like a family being the centre of the story. Again, in July, there's a book called Wilder Girls by Rory Power coming out. I must have a buzzword of boarding schools for some reason. It's definitely a little bit of a thing for me. It says Wilder Girls is pretty much your worst nightmare, but it's also to be your new favourite book. A girls' boarding school located on a now deserted island becomes quarantined, and 3 BFFs have to figure out how to survive when basically everyone around them dies off. Fingers crossed that one you know, gets down to the nitty-gritty, I suppose. So anyway, that's some of the books that I found when I was jumping down the rabbit hole, and I'm really enjoying watching everyone else's to see what else is coming out. Let me know which of these intrigues you the most. I'm definitely adding some of these to my pre-order lists on Amazon for making sure that I remember when they come out, because yeah, I think there's quite a few here, and I can't think which one is most intriguing me. I think maybe The Island of Sea Women, because of its location and how that sort of fits in with real life for me, and the fact that my sister-in-law lives there. Yeah, maybe that one at the moment, but they all sound brilliant. Anyway, that's it from me, and I look forward to chatting to you soon in the comments down below, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye for now, BookTube.